Thank you very much for coming this early. And I'm Jian Liang from HiScene. I'm very glad today to introduce to you some of our experiences in recent years when we apply AR in industry in China. So I should start saying that while we are seeing all fancy stuff here in the Expo hall, but AR itself actually is not that new. Why? Because this is our founder and CEO showing in a TV program. And let me emphasize that we've already using AR in the closed caption form. But this is a post-production, so we have some advanced technologies, which is called live. So we still have the closed caption, but it's live. So advanced, so much so, but here's the real thing. So recently, we've seen this. It's in the bad weather, so the field is covered, but the nice people at the TV station, they managed to get those symbols, those characters clearly embedded using AR. So I call this AR, and maybe a few years later, this is how we watch TV. Definitely, this is AR. This is the fancy stuff, right? But let's turn it back to now, and people are saying, well, AR is great, so let's have them, for example, doing some little desktop games, etc. So this is a typical AR demo that we are talking about today, right? Now, the point here is, in the last few years, as we applied AR in various businesses in China, we came to the question, who should be the first one to really use AR intensively? And I'm not saying, well, I have this 2B or 2C, this is a question, but actually what is hot now or have been used intensively, this is one example where you can change your face or beautify yourself or your friends. And this is definitely a consumer. But even though this seems a phenomenon, and actually in 2016, we've been very successful in partnering with Tencent to have this huge Olympic virtual torch relay, which covered a huge amount of people and cities and countries. And also, recently we partnered with Alipay to launch a series of commercial promotions, something like this, where you can use the Alipay app to scan a combination of their products to provoke some promotion, some gift sharing. We still find that consumers are not that crazy about these kind of applications. In my experience, half of them, or even more than half of them, don't even know that Alipay app, which has more than probably 800 million users in China. Many of them, I would say more than half of them, do not know that this app comes with AR capability at all. They are surprised. Wow, they're so surprised when I introduced it to them. So this brings me to the question of why in the past few years in China, QR code succeeded so rapidly throughout the country, covering almost everyone there, but AR isn't. So that brings me to the question, who would be the first one in China that would really use AR intensively and deeply? Now, looking at the development of the industry worldwide, and also specifically in China, we find that China is desperately advancing its industry level, trying to make it smart in this century. However, being smart, it means more data produced, and more data produced, and actually less people there. Now the population is growing old now, so less population, less working population, more data. That means we need a more efficient way to interact with the data such that you can manage all the smart manufacturing, processing, and logistic equipments. And while China is advancing to a made in China, that's the goal in 2025, many of the industries needs to be smartified. We've found 4 areas where AR will be a key point for them. So operation training, because the workforce is shrinking and the young people need to be trained to operate more equipment. Remote collaboration, because they need to cover a larger area and you can't fly people everywhere to solve the problem. Inspection and maintenance, again, more equipment, more inspection and maintenance. Working guide, that's along the same thread. So here are some things that we actually experience. Oh, by the way, in order to achieve the goal, we have our own glasses. You can visit our booth in the Expo hall to experience this. This is the first AR glass to win the IF and the Red Dot awards simultaneously. Now let me jump into our application. So for the inspection and maintenance, we have found that many of in the electricity industry, they are still using very old-fashioned way to do the inspection. Basically, the workers will walk around with a piece of paper and a pen in their hand, and this switchboard is about this high. So they have to squat for 5 minutes, copy down the status of every switch, and then check it against a list of the supposed to be, what is supposed to be. So here is what we have done for them. 30 seconds, and everything is recorded. And they can see the status clearly. If anything is wrong, it's red. Let me see if I can play this. I've had a few trouble, sorry. I apologize, the video doesn't seem to work very well. Oops. Let's see if it works here. Unfortunately, probably can only jump through it so you get an idea. Yeah, so you see the racks and the switchboard, and instead of having a worker walk around, having a piece of paper and a pen doing the job, it took them about, typically took them about 1 hour or 2 to one station, but now they can finish it in 15 minutes and accurate it and everything's recorded. So this is an example of where we use AR to demonstrate how a worker can be trained. Now he is listening to the guides and seeing the model with the virtual, with the guidance imposed on the model. I'm sorry, the weather doesn't seem to be right for them today. Now this demo, actually, you can go to our booth in the Expo hall and see it with your own eyes. Basically, you are looking at a motor right there, and you're looking at the motor through our glasses, and you can select one of the menu items to invoke. I think I'd better not to play the videos. They are causing troubles today. So you're looking at the motor, and you see the virtual menu items. You can select any of the virtual menu items, and it will pop up, for example, a marketing video, a specification, or virtually imposed there. So this, I will not play it. This simply shows you when you open the hood of your car, and if you're not familiar with the maintenance, then this application will show you where the water tank is, where the engine is, etc. Oh no, it still doesn't. So anyway, so our experience showed us that in industry in China nowadays, they have a huge amount of demand for AR assistance, just that they don't know how to apply it. Or sometimes they have a hype. They have a very high expectation. They don't know what really it is or what really it can do, but they are really seeking the help from us. So in operation training, in work guidance, in the inspection and maintenance, as well as remote communication, we have already implemented many projects in many industries, such as energy and boat manufacturing and automobile manufacturing, etc. Again, you can visit our booth in Expo to experience several of them. Now, what are the challenges? So in the industry of environment, it's very common to have reflection, very limited light, and poor contrast or poor exposure. Here, the lower one is one example that we captured in a rack, where they would want us to recognize the status of all the connections there. But it's extremely difficult. Now, the other one, in the engine compartment, it's easy, or actually in many other places as well. If you visited a few days later, it would be completely different. And also, our design has been challenged by some local adaptations. So by rules, they are not allowed to have anything blocking the view, but they just do. So we have to deal with it. And here, I'm showing the challenge with the data problem. So in the switchboard that you've seen before, at first, when we went into the job, all the switches look like this, all the switches, every one of them. So we train our data, we train our algorithm using the data, and then we went into the field, a different area, a different city. Sorry, where is that? Okay, let me show you this way. So later on, we went to a different city, and we found that, oh, they have a completely different array of switches with color, with very light color that is very very difficult to distinguish from the background. And some of them don't have that blade. Instead, they have a piece of notice underneath. And the last one is, well, it's completely different. So it's very difficult to predict the data and collect all the data in the industry, because what you deal with in one city will be very, very different from the other cities. You have to deal with them one at a time. But the good news is that in the industry environment, we can control the environment, we can control the equipment, and the workforce and the cost is favorable. They are willing to work with us. The government supports us very much. The industry, they are seeking the help from us. And the top players are ready to go. The innovations keep coming out, so there is very much hope to solve the problem of accuracy, battery life, protection, and comfort especially. We thought that the industry, they are not that much about comfort. They can tolerate, but it turns out they do care a lot about comfort because they need to wear it 8 hours a day. It's more than we can imagine. So I think everyone here can start to think about how we can solve the hardware, network, and contents problem for industry, because in the industry, where they have a lot of equipment, they don't have any asset of the digital content available there at all. So that's a huge challenge, how to create them, or either from scratch or manually or automatically. So with that, thank you. I must say that we have experienced successful and also some challenge cases with many industry leaders in China. And here are a few examples of them. So as a conclusion, I should say, industry, they are advancing so fast and they need all kinds of help. And from the AR point of view, they see us as a huge help in terms of training, in terms of their remote communication. And they are working with us very hard to implement that in various ways. Now, the challenge has been always that first of all, the condition there is not favorable always, sometimes. And as I said, the data problem has bothered us a lot. We find that we can solve almost any problem there, but the problem we can't is how to get to the data. It's kind of like the chicken and egg problem. We need to get get deployed in order to get data, but to get deployed, you need to have the algorithm working, and to have the algorithm working, you have to have the data first. So there's no perfect solution. We have to work one case at a time. Here, I hope this last one will play for you. Sorry, still bad luck here. Again, I apologize and I invite you to visit our booth to experience this remote collaboration example. Okay, thank you all very much.
Thank you, Dr. Liang. We have probably time for one question here. If you have a little bit of time, go ahead.
That certainly will help, but what I mean with comfort is more than just the viewing experience itself. For example, what I had in the slide I showing the weight factor. That is very important. And in some other industries, they have their requirement of what can and what cannot come into their onto their head. For example, they have to have a helmet, or they cannot have anything blocking their view. And sometimes they can have glasses, or they cannot have glasses. So because they have to see it clearly, so perhaps binocular design is not a good design there. You have to minimize it. So it differs from case to case, and certainly the view, the field of view or the condition of the view will be a big factor. But so far, the number one thing I heard is about the weight, actually. They want lightweight. They want it to be almost not there.